is the MCC Brussels podcast. Welcome. I am your host, John O'Brien, Head of Communications, filling in for Jacob Reynolds for the next few weeks. On the programme today, Ursula von der Leyen just pulled the plug on a key piece of the EU's green agenda, and now her political coalition is collapsing. Accused of betraying the climate cause, she's suddenly under fire from the very forces that once cheered her on. Small businesses are fed up, voters are pushing back, and climate extremism is colliding with common sense. Is this the beginning of the end for Europe's green consensus? And finally, at The Hague, NATO leaders pledged to spend more on defence, but almost immediately started watering it down. Spain wants exceptions, Italy says NATO is irrelevant, and behind the scenes, nobody agrees on what security even means anymore. Is NATO still a real alliance, or just a diplomatic costume party? Socialists and liberals are hopping mad this week that the EPP sided with the political right in pulling greenwashing legislation and could now block the legislation going forward. By killing the Green Claims Directive, did von der Leyen finally acknowledge that the EU's climate agenda is politically and economically unstable? Frank?
Well, in one sense, she obviously did, but that was like an open secret. Mm-hmm. For some time now, it's been very, very clear that the green agenda is kind of based on a fantasy document that was concocted within the Brussels bubble. But I think what has happened is that with the economic situation being what it is, and as the economic recession more and more unraveling, with energy prices being a real problem for European industry, it's now got to the point where the kind of fantasy politics of the environmentalists is hitting reality. I mean, reality has to have the final say. And in a sense, it doesn't really matter who are the actors within Parliament who are pushing the end of the Green Deal. Reality is forcing individuals in Parliament, but also more broadly within society, that all economic actors have now come to the conclusion that something very decisive needs to take place. And this stupid policy, which was dreamt up, has got to come to an end.
Mm. Ashley, is von der Leyen, do you think, acting out of pragmatism? Or is this a desperate political survival move heading into future elections for her?
Yeah, I suppose I would just echo what Frank has said. This is reality. This is, they can talk this big talk and think that they can solve all these deep problems in society by just writing the right rules and making sure that people do the right thing. But what they've actually done is they've offloaded responsibility for the things that go wrong in the economy, all sorts of issues onto everyday people, and people are having a backlash. And who's actually winning in this is the big corporations. They're benefiting from regulatory capture. They're saying regulate, and let our small competitors be damned.
I think this is a great point, because we saw it played out with the farmers. Many small businesses are arguing that green regulations are strangling them in red tape. So the climate agenda, has it become, Ashley, a luxury ideology, one that the elites can afford, but small businesses, small farmers, they're going to go down?
Absolutely. And people are fighting back now. This is the real side of virtue, of all this virtue signaling, of wanting to take a stand on big issues. These are people's lives. When it actually comes down to it, we are throwing people under the bus. We are throwing our food system under the bus. And I do suspect that those in power know that. And they don't care, because these are the enemy. These are the sort of grassroots people. They're marred by tradition. They have the wrong ideas, the wrong sorts of values. And the big corporations, ironically to them, they love to talk about green agendas because they can afford to.
Frank, what type of world do we live in that the EU becomes a regulatory empire that punishes productivity and, in the name of sort of a virtuous planetary outlook, why productivity? Why punish productivity and they have this virtuous view of the planet, and that trumps everything?
Well, it actually based on realpolitik. And the origins of these policies lies, again, to go back to the legitimacy crisis of the European bureaucracy, the EU bureaucracy. Because at the end of the day, what do they stand for? What gives them any kind of authority? And they looked around, and one of the most important planks that they chose was green politics and environmentalism, because they believed that being the nice people, the environmentally friendly people, the people that was in the forefront of global environmentalism, the EU could kind of come across as this incredibly virtuous, incredibly morally sort of lofty sort of institution. And at a certain point, that ideological commitment, banking on environmentalism, acquired a hard reality and a dynamic of its own, because the people that inhabit the institution of the European Union are often activists who actually believe in their own lives, and they do believe in this fantasy world that they've kind of created. And I think they never actually said, oh, we want to lower productivity, but they weren't particularly worried about lowering productivity, because if you believe in what they call sustainable development, then what that really means, as long as you sustain, a kind of static sort of economic sort of world, then everything is all right. So they're not interested in raising living standards. In fact, they use terms like, oh, those people want cheap food. Isn't that really horrible? Oh, those people don't understand that the environment it demands that we make sacrifices. So, from their point of view, this was a logical step forward. And now we are seeing the fact that people are, as Ashley was saying, kicking back very, very forcefully.
Ashley, we are not a flat earther. And we do care about the environment. But what does the backlash tell us about where public opinion in Europe is heading with regards to climate policy? Is public opinion telling us that people are fed up and don't want climate alarmism?
Yes, I think, people have been told for years and years, that the world's going to end like very, very soon. And these predictions, they don't come to pass. People aren't stupid. They start to say, well, look, maybe you are being too alarmist. They recognize that there is an issue, but also I think that they object to the responsibility for the issue being offloaded onto them. And this is essentially what they've been doing. They've been saying, you want too much. You consume too much. How dare you want a better life? How dare you simply assume that you'll have cheap food, this sort of thing. And all of this is sort of given this, it's very ironic because it's given a greenwash, which ostensibly the EU is against. They greenwash trying to bring people's expectations down and tell people to know their place. But they look and they see progress. They know it's possible and it's being kept from them. And that's not, no amount of greenwashing will stop that.
Frank, what chance do we have of pulling out of this nosedive on green issues when for years now, children in schools have been indoctrinated with a green Greta Thunberg extremist agenda?
Well, it's going to be a very big struggle. There's no doubt about it. But it's a struggle that can be won because until now, a lot of people have been quiet. They've been scared to express their views and their sentiments. And as you know, as Simon and Garfunkel said, silence like a cancer grows. And that's what happened in relation to environmentalism. People just kept things to themselves. And they were scared to basically say that actually, I would like a better life. I would like to have a better car. I would like to have nice clothes. And now what's happened is that because of the changes politically in Europe, more and more people are opening their mouth. And, if your neighbor says that at the end of the day, when I get up in the morning, I'm not worried about the end of the world, then other people in the neighborhood will also echo the same sentiments. So I think that what you now have is a situation where people are finding their voice in relation to climate alarmism. They're kind of kicking back because of that. And therefore the ideology, which has always been based on a very thin gruel of concocted stories, that I think can be challenged. But I think you're right to suggest that with the younger generations being continually indoctrinated by environmentalism, we are going to have a very major fight on our hands. But it's a fight that I'm fairly sure we can win.